Hi, my name is Terry Giuliano Long. I'm here to talk with you today about blog tours. Blog tours, also known as virtual book tours, give authors an opportunity to meet and introduce themselves and their books to readers. Blog tours may consist of book reviews, author interviews, or author-written guest posts. Tours are sometimes self-directed, or they may be organized and arranged by blog tour guides. Tours typically last from about a week to a month or more, with stops on as few as 5 blogs to as many as 100 or more. What are the benefits of a blog tour? Today, blogs are online or virtual literary cafes. Book blogs unite readers and writers. They give readers a chance to get to know writers and writers a chance to meet and connect with readers. Bloggers also follow other bloggers, so while on a book tour, a virtual book tour, you will meet readers and possibly other writers. You also have a chance to meet other bloggers. One of the great things about blog tours is the virtual messaging. When you're on a traditional book tour, which are wonderful, this isn't to say blog tours are better, they're just another part of your marketing campaign. What's great about blog tours, though, is that they have a chance to spread virally. Most bloggers, when they host you on their tour or when they host you on their blog, will give you will share the post through their Twitter feeds, on their Facebook networks, through G+, Pinterest. If they review your book, they may post a review on Goodreads or other social or consumer sites. So you have a chance to not only appear on one particular blog, but to be seen on a whole variety of social networks. Many times, if a reader enjoys a post that you've done on a blog during a blog tour, he or she will also share your post through their networks. So you really have a chance to have your book and your message go viral through a blog tour. Another really great aspect of a blog tour is the testimonial side of it. When you're on a blog tour, bloggers and, again, readers, writers, other bloggers spread your message through their networks. So they're giving you the testimonial. They're becoming your evangelists. What you will and won't get on a blog tour. Certainly you'll get lots of exposure. Blog tours are really, really great for introducing you to readers and giving you an opportunity to show readers another side of yourself. Usually, if you're interviewed by a traditional media outlet, or if you're in a book signing, you don't really have a lot of time. And or at least the interviews I've seen and the signings I've attended, people tend to ask the same questions, which is fine. There are questions that most people are interested in, and such as your process and what made you decide to be a writer. That's the reason they ask those questions. But on a blog tour, bloggers want to have fresh content, so they'll very often ask you really interesting questions that you may not have gotten someplace else. They may ask you where you've traveled, what you like to eat, what your favorite season is. So you'll have a chance to show a whole other side of yourself that you may not have had during a traditional tour. These connections are certainly absolutely invaluable, again, because they provide you, they build community for one thing, which is really great. They connect you to the book community in another fashion. Certainly through your book signings, you'll meet readers and through traditional media, but you'll also make more immediate connections on a blog tour. You don't have that wall. There's not really, other than your tour host, there's not really an intermediary between you and the blogger. Once you're on the blog, readers have direct access to you, and very often they may email you themselves, or again, they may write about you on Facebook, or they may tweet you, or any number of ways they'll want to connect with you. Creates a really, really vibrant, wonderful community. Your book may also be reviewed. Certainly, if you have a book that is widely reviewed, your book will appear in lots of great places. But when you have a book review done online, it just broadens your reach. The one thing you will not get during a blog tour is a guarantee of positive reviews. As I said, blog tours may be self-guided, or they may be directed by a tour company. On a self-guided tour, the author queries the bloggers, organizes the tour, and schedules all his or her own stops. If you work with a tour company, the tour guides typically recruit and work with a little stable or their own stable of bloggers. Some may have relationships with 8 or 10 or 15 bloggers. Other tour companies may have relationships with 50 or more, 100 different bloggers. But the tour guide actively recruits them and they work with them. They know the bloggers' preferences. They know the bloggers. The tour guide also will schedule your stops. They'll check for blogger preferences. What is the particular blogger looking for? They'll collect and distribute your advanced review copies, your interviews, your guest posts. If a problem comes up, they'll mediate and resolve it for you. If you offer prizes, they'll also draw names and collect the prize winners' names for you. With a blog tour, you'll also have a designated number of stops over a specific period. Again, they can range anywhere from a week to about 2 months. And many times, the tour companies will supplement your tour with media support of their own. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, there are pros and cons to both self-guided tours and tour guide arranged tours. With a self-guided tour, one of the really big positive aspects is it's very inexpensive. It costs you your time. So if you have a tight budget, or if you just want to direct your money elsewhere, self-guiding your tour can be a really great way to go. Blog tours are not that hard to arrange. There are blog directories online that you could consult to find names of bloggers. Certainly you can probably find names of bloggers from your friends as well. Another really good thing about self-directed tours is that they're really flexible. You'll work directly with the bloggers, so you'll be able to talk about what kind of content will be posted. When you go with a tour company, the tour company has much more control over the content of posts. You'll be able to arrange the schedule yourself, so you may be able to arrange a schedule that's more convenient for you. If you'd like your tour to have a theme, say your book has something about holidays or about holiday traditions, and you want to have a holiday theme, if you're directing the tour yourself, it will be easier for you to direct it as a themed tour. You won't be constricted, or you won't be restricted, I should say, by the guidelines of the tour company. The other really big plus with a self-guided tour is that you have direct contacts with the bloggers themselves. Many times with a tour company, the tour guide will act as an intermediary, so you may not have a lot of contact except the day that you appear on the blog with the bloggers who are hosting you. This gives you an opportunity to build your network of bloggers for future reference, for support, and just really to build a community, to build a writing community. On the downside, the negatives of a self-guided tour are that it can be very time intensive. Scheduling coordination can also be a headache. Posts need to be arranged very often months in advance, unless you're working with a new blogger, which can be wonderful too. Your posts, you may have to contact bloggers as much as 6 months or even a year in advance. It's not too early to start planning a tour now for late spring, now being October, for late spring. In fact, I have spoken with bloggers who are already booked all the way through 2013. Now, obviously, bloggers will give the priority spots to their friends if they're already working with a tour company, and the tour company asks them, they'll have the opportunity to, say, do a tour with an author they want to work with. They'll probably give them preference, the tour company's preference, or their friend's preference. So it can be a little bit hard to schedule the appearances. Some bloggers have had negative experience, unfortunately, with writers in some cases, and they may be reluctant to work with an author they don't know. So these are just some of the challenges you may have to overcome. The other problem with a self-guided tour is that if issues arise, and they do, and they may cause friction, they can be frustrating and disappointing, you don't have an intermediary to work with you. Now remember, blogs, if anything that you write on a blog lives forever. So if you vent on a blog, you express your frustration on a blog, that really can backfire, because that can last forever, pretty much indefinitely. Tour companies also have pros and cons. One of the positive aspects of a tour company is it's really pretty easy. There are no organizational or logistical issues, essentially, other than providing your posts, providing your interview responses. You really just have to show up. Tour guides have relationships with bloggers, as I've already said, so it may be easier to book your book or book you with bloggers that you may not have been able to get in with otherwise. A blog tour will happen within a specific time frame. That's not to say that you don't need to organize it ahead of time. Certainly, blog tour companies also book ahead of time. But the chances of, say you have a book launch on a particular day, your chances of being able to arrange all your tour stops within a designated period of time is probably better with a tour company. Again, they act as intermediaries should problems arise. Tour companies will also give you visibility. They will, as I've suggested, many will promote your tour during the tour itself. So the tour guide may tweet about you, and they'll tell other people which blogs you're on, because they want to build traffic also for the blogger. But in addition to that, they'll also promote your tour before and after the event. They'll create an event page usually on their blog that allows bloggers to sign up and is also there for other readers or guests who may want to see who's on tour. So you'll have a lot of visibility that you may not have been able to get yourself. On the downside, guided tours or working with a tour company can be costly. I've seen tours for as inexpensive as about $50 for a very short tour, up to thousands of dollars, so they can get really expensive. Tour companies also have rules. They're used to working with their own bloggers. They have relationships with bloggers, and they want to keep their bloggers happy for obvious reasons. And so there are rules that you will have to follow if you work with a tour company. That may mean that you have a little bit less flexibility with your posts. You may have a little bit less flexibility with your timing, etc. With a tour company, you also may have less direct contact with your bloggers. As I've said, tour companies play intermediaries and sometimes act as they do all the interaction. Many times the tour companies do all the interaction with the bloggers, and that's really just essentially, again, to protect their bloggers and to make sure things go smoothly. When you have too many irons in the fire, as they say, things can get disorganized and messy. So it's easier to have one contact and everything going through that one contact. And so that's the reason why another reason tour companies work primarily with bloggers. This is a good thing. It helps the tours be organized, but unfortunately, it can be a little bit harder for you to build your network. The other thing that you need to watch out for with tour companies is that not all tours are created equally. Now, the tours that I recommend, the tour companies that I've used and worked with, are really, really wonderful. They're organized. Their prices are very reasonable for what you receive in return. You always know what's expected of you. You know when your materials are due. They're collected and distributed on a timely basis. If you've given out prizes, you get the winners on a timely basis. They give you their contact information. So all of this is done for you, and the blog tour just goes really smoothly, and it can be a really, really great time. Some tour guides, unfortunately, are a lot less organized. They may ask you for a post on Friday that's due on Saturday, and just that can be really can be frustrating, and it can be anxiety inducing. What will you be asked to provide? If you will receive book reviews as part of your tour, and again, they're optional. Sometimes tours offer them and sometimes they don't. Question to ask. But if the bloggers are reviewing your book, they'll ask you for an advanced review copy or an ARC. Most bloggers today will accept ebooks, but some still require hard copies. Some still want to read on that old-fashioned paperback. If that's the case, you'll be asked to send the paperback, obviously, again, at your own expense. And that can be time-consuming. One of the things that a lot of times authors don't realize, and that really is important to know, providing an ARC does not guarantee 100% guarantee a review. Bloggers are wonderful, and they really try their best to provide a review if they say they're going to. But unfortunately, some have really big backlogs. As I said, they're booked months in advance. Sometimes they'll have backlogs of hundreds of books. I mean, truly hundreds of books, I've heard bloggers say. And so if something comes up that interrupts their schedule, it's possible that they won't get to your review in time. So as disappointing as that is, sometimes you don't end up with a review. The other thing that happens is that some bloggers prefer to only post reviews for books they enjoyed. So if a blogger didn't care for your book, he or she may have asked for an ARC, didn't care for your book, you may ask to provide a guest post or an interview, answer interview questions instead. And that kind of works well for everyone. You'll also be asked for interview responses. Some guides will provide you pre-written questions, and then they'll distribute your responses to the various bloggers. More commonly, at least in my experience, is that the tour guides will defer to blogger preferences. So what will happen is the tour guide will say, Mary, what would you like from Terry, from me? Mary, what would you like from Terry? And Mary says, well, I'd like an interview. Mary provides the interview questions, gives them to my tour guide gives them to me. I answer the questions, I return the questions to the tour guide by a specified date, and the tour guide gives my responses to the blog host. Exactly the same thing happens with guest posts. Some tours occasionally may offer you options within a predetermined set of options. So you might be able to write all your guest posts ahead of time. Just give your tour guide, say, 10 guest posts, and he or she will distribute them among the various bloggers. More often, at least in my experience, is that tour guides ask the bloggers what they like. For me, for example, bloggers sometimes ask for posts about motherhood. I write about families. They may ask me, how family situations or relationships or motherhood influences my writing or influences my book. Or they may ask me questions about the book relating to motherhood or family type or relational issues. So again, same thing would happen. I would be given the question, I'd respond, give my guest post to the tour guide will give it to the blogger. Blogger etiquette. This is really important. I mean, I always say, I've said many, many times in different posts that bloggers are the fairy godmothers and godfathers of the literary world. Bloggers really can make or break an author. If you think about all the authors today, the authors who maybe only have an ebook, who've only published through Amazon, but make the bestseller list for USA Today or even the New York Times bestseller list, this happens because of bloggers. Because bloggers share the book throughout their networks, they recruit authors, they become evangelists, and they talk about the book, and that is how books sell. So it's only right, I think, that we are kind to bloggers, that we use and follow etiquette. So some of the things to do, some of the things that you should do are obviously, particularly if you are writing the queries yourself, make sure you know the bloggers' names. You don't write, dear blogger. You address bloggers in exactly the same way you would address an editor, say if you were querying a book or if you were querying for an article. Be sure the name is spelled correctly. Respect blogger preferences. They're almost always written on their blog. They may be in the About section, sometimes they'll be in policy, sometimes there'll be a section about reviews. In one of those sections, you will be able to find their preferences. If a blogger only reads romance, don't send them a nonfiction book. You want to respect their preferences. Always respect their deadlines. Bloggers create and maintain their blogs by themselves, and it's very time consuming. It can also be costly. It's not cheap to run a blog. I mean, it's not, you have your upkeep, you have your SEO, you have your maintenance, etc., etc. So they're doing a lot for us. When they give us a deadline, that deadline gives them time to put the post on their blog. Sometimes some bloggers may want to write it all up in or post it in HTML. That takes time. They may want to do setup design that takes time. So we need to be sure that we respect their deadlines so that they have time to put the blogs up when they as planned. We should always show appreciation by responding to blog comments. So when our post appears that day, you should visit the blog and we should respond to any commenters. It's not necessary to give prizes, but it can help to build traffic. So if you'd like to offer prizes, that's a nice way to help a blogger build traffic to his or her blog. You should always respond graciously to reviews. You know, sometimes a blogger will write something that you don't agree with. You may not love the review, but we need to always be gracious no matter what. Say thank you. And again, return once or twice after you've appeared on the blog to answer any follow-up questions. Usually in the comment box, there'll be a little box beneath it that asks you if you want to be alerted of if there are follow-up comments. If you check that off, that just makes it easier for you so that you know when there's a comment and you can go back and respond to it. What should you not do? We should never make demands. You know, as I said, bloggers have tremendous backlogs, so if they don't offer a review, there's probably a reason. Don't pester bloggers. If they say no, no means no. And some of these are really obvious. We should never disrespect a blogger's time. We're authors. This is community. This is about sharing. It's about building community, so we should never be divas. Please don't forget to follow up. Don't trash talk anybody, the blogger, a reviewer, a commenter, ever online, because believe it or not, it really goes viral. Don't complain if a post is late or doesn't go up. This happens sometimes. It's rare. Most bloggers will put the post up when they say, the vast majority of bloggers, if they give you a date, they say that your post will be up on December 1st. It'll be up on December 1st, but bloggers are human. You know, sometimes a child gets sick, or they're ill, or they have an illness in the family, or some kind of an emergency comes up and they're not able to get their blog post up in time. That's happened to me a few times. You know, you just kind of roll with it. One of the things that I've noticed though is that people, you know, really people blog about books because they love books. You know, they really want to help you get the word out there. They want to do these. They want to write about you. They want to write about your book. What's happened with me is if a blog post didn't go up on time, sometimes months later, I'll get a note or a tweet or an email or a Facebook post from the blogger saying, geez, you know, I'm really sorry, such and such came up. I'd really like to do the post now. You know, so that really does happen. So best, if something happens, just roll with it. Again, never complain about a review, no matter what. People, there are actually lists of authors behaving badly, and one of the top complaints on the list are authors who complain about a review. When you complain about a review, again, as I said, these things go viral. You wouldn't believe how small, it's a huge community, but it's such a small community. So many bloggers know one another, authors know bloggers, bloggers know authors. There's a lot of talk within the reading community. And so if an author behaves badly by complaining about a review, by being rude to a blogger, word just gets around, really does get passed around. And do's and don'ts finally of your blog tour in general. Again, always try to be gracious and polite. Actually, I'm going to start with a don't, so we finish on a positive note. Don't offer books as a prize. This isn't really a big deal, but if you want to give away a prize, you're really better off giving a small gift card, you know, $10 or $15 gift card, or maybe an ebook from your backlist. The reason that you don't want to give your current book away as a prize, which sometimes in the past bloggers used to encourage, the reason you don't want to is because it discourages sales. You know, if somebody's on the blog, they read about your book, they get all excited about it, they want to go right to Amazon and buy it. The link's right there, it makes it nice and easy for them. If the book is a prize, then of course the readers or the visitors will, the chances of them saying, I'm going to go buy that book now are a little bit less. Because they're a little bit less likely to do that because they might think, oh, I think I'll wait and maybe I'll win this book as a prize, and then chances are that they may forget about it. So you're always better off not giving books as a prize. Again, never be arrogant and rude. Don't miss deadlines. And try not to let your exhaustion show. One of the things about blog tours, they are wonderful. Again, for building your community, for taking your message for creating a viral message, they are fantastic. But remember, if you have to say package books, or even sending anything other than one ARC to a tour guide, I mean, just sending the books is time consuming. Answering interview questions. You'll be asked sometimes the same questions over and over and over again, and it's tiring. It's exhausting. Or alternately, you may be asked some really interesting questions that you're excited about answering, but you have to think about it. For me, and a lot of people I know can answer an interview in 20 minutes or an hour, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. It can take me a couple of hours to answer interview questions because I want to answer them thoughtfully. So if you're like me and you're, a little bit slow about things, you like to think about your responses before you write them, it can be time consuming. Ditto with guest posts. Once you've got everything all finished, you've turned in all of your materials, you still have to go back to the blogs and comment. You have to comment to, you have to respond to people who've made comments about your books. If you haven't been given a list of interview questions ahead of time, if you have not done pre-written guest posts, the chances are very good, and this is really typical, you may be answering interview questions and writing guest posts during your blog tour. I mean, that's not that uncommon. In that case, you're really are juggling a lot of things at once. You're visiting blogs, you're responding, you're thanking bloggers, you're writing guest posts, so it can be very time consuming and exhausting. So you want to try not to let your exhaustion show. You just want to try to be as gracious and polite as possible. Again, try to respond to questions and comments in a timely fashion. People understand that we're human, just as I said, bloggers are human. We're human too. It doesn't always happen exactly on time, but we really should try our best because that shows bloggers our appreciation. And it also helps them build traffic. When visitors or when readers comment and they get a response from you, they get a lot more, they get excited. Again, they become your evangelists. So it behooves us to respond to comments as well. Again, always try to respect your host and hostess's time. Be sure to satisfy your responsibilities. If you are asked for a guest post, be sure you provide it. Follow up, as I said, visit the blog, say thank you, and try to be as energetic as possible. And so that's really pretty much the down and dirty on blog tours. More than anything else, just really have fun. Blog tours are wonderful. They have been one of the most fun for certain, and one of the most powerful tools that I've used to sell my books. If you read the last post that I wrote for Grub Street, then you know that I was selling just a few books a month before I did my first blog tour. Between the time I finished my first blog tour or within 2 months of finishing my first blog tour, I went from selling 200 books a month. Without the blog tours, the book sales were less every month, were decreasing. I went from selling about 200 books a month to 100 to 50, and then I went on my blog tour. The next month, that first month, I didn't sell a whole lot of books because it takes time for people to, not everybody buys the book during the blog tour. So blog tours don't necessarily result in tremendously increased sales. They increase your visibility. There's an old marketing saw that says people need to see your message 7 times before they buy, and that's probably true. But if you go on a blog tour, then maybe they see another guest post you've done on your own, maybe they see you on Twitter, maybe they see you on Goodreads. These repeated images help people really to remember you and encourage people to buy. I've been on blog tours where people have said, oh, I've been thinking about your book. I saw it on Amazon, and now that I've gotten to have a chance to read your interview, I'm really interested. I'm really excited. I'm going to buy your book right now. So the Sometimes you will get sales during a blog tour. Sometimes it may take a month or a couple months before you see them. But for me, I went from selling, before I started my tour, only 45 books the entire month. The following month, a couple hundred. The following month, a couple thousand. And the following month, 16,000. So it really increased my book sales tremendously. I feel like I owe bloggers, any success I have, I really owe to bloggers and blog tours. So I encourage it. And I think they're wonderful, and they're fun. Yes, they're time consuming, yes, they're exhausting, but they're really, really terrific. So have a good time, have fun.